All right. Hello, everyone. We are live. Super excited to be here talking to you. In 48 hours, I'll be in San Francisco, and hopefully, I will catch up with you in person if you are there for the Gen AI Week. It's an awesome conference, and looking forward to catching up with a lot of you in person. So this is going to be a great week. But today we have an interesting topic that you would probably like to stay to the end and know about. All right. Even if you are a data science enthusiast or a data science leader, um, this is for you. If you're an AI entrepreneur or you're a business owner, 100%, this is for you. So, we're going to talk about AI, but with a new flavor. We're going to talk about how AI is impacting content creation, PR, how AI companies are leveraging AI, and also what is the best way to get visibility, get credibility, cut through the noise. I'm going to have an expert joining me in a second, but before that, I would love to hear from you. All right. Like always, I would like to know where are you tuning in from. This is a great time for people, for the audience in APAC. Still not too late. Hopefully, a lot of you are watching. Also, Europe might be a bit too early in US. Still excited to see if any of our friends are tuning in from US, California. I'm going to be there. So if you're watching this, please reach out. And yeah, and this is going to be a great talk. So if you have any questions about this topic, um, put it in the chat. I'll make sure I'll ask our guest. All right, either during or at the end of the this talk. So all right, let's see who is watching this. Chandan, how are you? Thanks for joining. Brandon, great to see you. All right, from Denmark. Sophia, thanks for joining. Very early from San Francisco. All right, that's so good. Thanks, UK. Yeah, from India. Where are my Indian friends? Let's say hi to all of them. We have great support and followers from India, as well as many other places. Nice. Hello, hello, Samantha. And we have Rahul here. Let's just see some other people. Where's the registration link? If you're talking about Gen AI Week, you'll probably I'll try to put it in the chat. I'll get the time to share it with you after, but let's just focus on this sort of this conversation right now. I'll find a link for you. We have San Diego, Canada. All right, all right. We have a lot of diversity here, which is great. We love it. As much as we love diversity, we love to hear from you. If you are building anything in AI, if you are doing any exciting project, I'll get back to all these comments, but I know you would like to hear from our guests, so I will not keep you any longer. So I will just quickly add our guest, Ellen Edelman. Thanks for joining us, Ellen. Ellen has more than 25 years of experience handling communication across nearly every discipline, from brand and product marketing to executive and crisis communications. Ellen is highly adept at driving results from strategy to execution, managing a variety of disciplines, including media outreach, strategic messaging, and content development. Thanks for joining us, Ellen.
It's my pleasure. Thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. I mean, I did not do the justice. I know that you have a great experience, 25 years. Oh my God, that's awesome. Please, can you share a little bit more about yourself, about what you're doing right now, and some of the interesting experiences that you have?
Yeah, I would love that. Thanks. Yeah, so I work with AI companies, founders, marketers, et cetera. Every day we work with and have worked with dozens, many dozens of AI brands over the year. And we really help them do a number of things to get their stories out there in a very, very crowded space. Stories that put them on the map and meet their business objectives, which could be anything from talent acquisition to funding to customer acquisition and partners and the like. We're a full service marketing agency. We do social, webinars, paid content marketing, website development, et cetera. But on the PR side, which is predominantly what I think we'll be focused on today, we work with brands to help them secure speaking opportunities, award opportunities, support in-person events like Gen AI Week next week, thought leadership, news, et cetera. The likes of news sites that we're working with every day include, the coveted outlets like the Wall Street Journal, CNBC, TechCrunch, as well as, the verticals where, likely many of your customers are living and breathing, newsletters, growing in prominence, Substacks and podcasts, you name it. So again, it's really about working with each company to make sure that we are carving out and meeting their business objectives with our communications work.
Awesome. Thanks, Ellen. That's super exciting. And I know that this is very helpful for a lot of our audience, or specifically entrepreneurs who are having a business, who are, there's always a good way to get seen and get the visibility. And that's where you would definitely be very, very helpful. I'm going to just jump right into it. I know that everybody's excited. They want to know more. So as we know, like right now, AI is changing everything, like from product development, content creation, and everything that we touch is right now kind of assisted by AI or being highly changed by AI. What is the most underrated impact of AI? And how these companies can communicate using AI?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll say for now, obviously content creation the opportunity there is tremendous. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We use it at Spark for brainstorming, coming up with big ideas for research, for better understanding technology and our clients' work and how they impact their customers, summarizing meetings, et cetera. But I think the big opportunity, perhaps looking forward, although some companies are starting to do it now, is really creating very, very personalized content that reaches target customers or prospects or talent where they want it, when they want it, how they want it, in, like I said, a very personalized way at scale. So from a marketing perspective, if you are a vitamin supplement company and you're looking to reach Sally in Idaho, but she likes to get video content, but only in the afternoons in her Instagram feed, and her primary interest and focus is weight loss, brands can very strategically and quickly create very custom content for her to reach her and hopefully impact sales. From a PR perspective, we're starting to use GPT and other tools that we've invested in to automate the media outreach process. And I will note before I go too much further that the human touch is really important, and we'll talk more about that, I'm sure, later in the session. But this automated way of really understanding media preferences, what they've written about, what they care about, what they need, how they like to be pitched, what type of pitch is best for them. So, John Smith at the Wall Street Journal really likes to be reached via via LinkedIn, but only between 8 and 9 in the morning. And he wrote a story about small language models recently, and that's of interest to him particularly. So my small language model client should reach out to him with X content. That's really the big opportunity that AI is starting to deliver. It's this really personalized information that's created at scale and automated. And, I think maybe one day, my fact checking agent will communicate with John Smith's at the Wall Street Journal's fact checking agent to help, fact check stories and streamline that as well. The opportunities are really endless.
Thanks, Ellen. 100% agree. The opportunities are endless, but as you mentioned, like there's still a role for human to play. As we have more and more tools available to everyone, how do you see the balance evolving between the AI generated content and human led stories?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I will say, we're an AI forward company, so we do use AI to help iterate with content development and the like. And I typically find that the first draft really gets me maybe 60 yards down the field for football enthusiasts. And that's great, right? That just saved me 60% of my time. But it really needs a good 40% on top of that and another 40 yards to get it to the place where it's ready for various stakeholders to be viewing. And I'll put it this way: there are 70,000 AI companies worldwide. It's a lot of noise. And so, the risk of creating AI focused brands and brand building and storytelling via AI is that it all starts to sound the same. We've all seen AI generated content that sounds really lofty. And when you first read it, it's really impressive, but it also many times doesn't say very much. And it certainly doesn't say very much that's different. And so, we always add the human layer on top of it. I think, there's been quite a bit of talk about how AI is replacing humans. We see that in the press all the time, and the demise of, let's say, writers, as for example, as a result of AI. I'll point you all to a story that I found really interesting that hit earlier this week in BBC about how brands are hiring AI writers to replace the AI engines that replaced the original AI writers that were on staff, because the AI is just not doing a good enough job and oftentimes makes errors. Now, when you've got a marketer and a communicator and an AI agent working hand in hand, that's really the best equation. And I'll say this too, from a media relations perspective, AI media are really overwhelmed. You can imagine, a member of the business press told one of my colleagues recently that her inbox looks like a scene from The Matrix. And so what that means is every second, the emails just keep coming in, the pitches, one on top of each other. And so if the content just looks like every other piece of content that is in their inbox, they're not likely to write about it. It really requires a very pointed touch. We often find, the element of humor, sometimes being self-deprecating, for example, in your pitch header works wonders. And so, AI can do that, but humans do that a lot better.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, definitely, I'm getting spammed by a lot of emails that look and feel similar, and probably somebody just trying to leverage the LinkedIn information to be smart about the messaging using automation and AI, and it sometimes generates sort of nonsense. And I hope that AI gets better, but at this point, we definitely need a lot of help. And as you mentioned, there's like more than 70,000 AI companies. It is very important to have strategies that will be able to differentiate you. So can you share some of these strategies, communication strategies that would actually help these companies to be more, more differentiated from the others and come to the top?
Sure. Yeah, I think it's important for companies that are, just being founded, coming out of stealth, really making a big entrance into this very crowded space, to keep three things in mind. And by keeping those three things in mind, we're not boiling the ocean. We're really targeting very specifically the right people with the right message. And so those three things are our business objectives, right? We talked about that a little bit. Are we looking to raise a round of funding? Are we looking for customer acquisition? Are we looking for talent? I've worked with clients who all they want to do is bring in the best talent. Well, you can imagine that the message to do that will be somewhat different, if not very different, from the company that's looking to raise a round of funding or for customer acquisition, for example. And so really having a keen understanding of those business objectives, and there may be more than one, is really important for storytelling. The second is really having a keen understanding of our target audiences. So what types of employees are we looking to reach at what types of companies, and what vertical audiences, for example, are most important? Because if we're not able to kind of narrow our demographic and the very real people who we're trying to reach, whether that's talent or customers, we run the risk of trying to be all things to all people, and that doesn't work either. And so really having that keen understanding of our target audiences is really important. And then the other area, and this one is really important, and I think companies sometimes fall a little short on, is understanding with a very keen sense our competitors and who our competitors are and what makes us different, right? So, and that's really where the rubber meets the road from a messaging perspective and a storytelling perspective. It's really important to know if we're not different than our competition, then we're not really giving the media very much reason to write about us. So by identifying the competition and what they can do and how we're better, whether it's our team, our capabilities, the speeds, et cetera, that becomes really important for storytelling. And then I will just add on top of that, from a differentiating perspective, not only the speeds and feeds and the utility, but also why does that matter? What benefits will a potential employee find when they come work for us? What benefits will a customer find in terms of if we're reaching CFOs or CISOs or chief executives or the like, what really speaks to them, and why does our technology help make a difference in what they do every day? What benefits are they going to find that makes their job easier, that brings better results for their companies? And I guess I would ask you too. I mean, you work with founders each and every day to try to find ways to stand out. What do you see as some of the key things that they're doing to break through that content clutter and really make a difference for visibility?
No, that's a great point. Thanks, Ellen. I mean, I have seen many of these companies trying to flood the sort of the social media feeds and chasing some trendy stuff instead of thinking about something original, differentiating, as you mentioned, very important, differentiating themselves from their competitors. What's their key sort of differentiator that they make them more memorable and more, I would say, stand out from the noise. And also, a lot of times people just want to talk about the hype, and instead of talking about tangible proof of the work that they have. This is very important, that we all try to make sure we incorporate our experiences and things that we believe that is a valuable content and valuable proof of the great projects that we have done, instead of just going back to the same sort of talking point. So, I mean, lots of points that come to my mind. At the end of the day, staying human, getting connected emotionally and personally with your audience, going to make a lot of difference in this world. Still, we're navigating this new world of AI and social media. But at the end of the day, by heart, we're human. One of the things that I tried on my own social media sort of strategy during the time, I tried to make things simpler and sometimes oversimplifying, that people would actually will thank me for and support me for that particular reason, because they just seeing that I'm not trying to show that I just have learned something super crazy complex. It's more of like understandable for the public and everybody who wants to learn about AI.
I love that. And I think, you bring up a really good point too. So often we're trying to sell something, and a lot of times communications and what you just described isn't about selling, it's about connecting. And so, yes, those differentiators are important and they'll be the anchor points for communication, but also offering something valuable in terms of content, and being bold in that outreach is really important too. Offering a point of view. I mentioned being self-deprecating before, and those self-deprecating touch points are really resonate, I will say, with media specifically, but also with key stakeholders. We were working once with a small language model provider that I mentioned, and we sent a pitch to the press talking about how small language models are the Jan Brady of the Brady family. And for anyone who is old enough to have watched the Brady Bunch, what that means is, always needing to justify via Marsha, their resonance and relevance versus the large language models. Well, I mean, the crowd went wild and the media loved that pitch. Was it something that on its face was what a small language model provider might say? Maybe yes, maybe no. But I'll tell you that pitch resulted in significant coverage for our client, because it really did speak to the emotional hearts and minds of the media for whom it resonated.
Oh, that's a good one. And I'm just going to jump into the next one, Ellen. I mentioned a little bit about hype versus the reality, and you touched on the differentiator. A lot of times when companies want to overemphasize their differentiator, they walk in a fine line between the bold vision versus the overhyping the technology or whatever service or product they have. How do you help these founders navigate this tension?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think, first and foremost, it's really important to separate the jargon, words like revolutionizing and transforming, to the real life value that we're delivering customers or talent or, whatever business objectives we're meeting. And so we like to think of it in a few ways. We often ask our clients when we have a news announcements of sorts to be thinking about 3 words: first, best, only. And those are the words that really make a solution different. And then from there, your first, best, only narrative, they anchor the claim, but then again, it's not necessarily about what we're delivering. Yes, maybe our model is 30% faster, but why that matters. And so that's really, again, about showing for customers, for example, touching their while it's touching their business, what we're optimizing, why it matters, and what value we're delivering with our technology. And then the other point I think there that's important is be thinking about third-party credibility. It's great to offer our differentiators and why they matter, but having other influencers, for example, industry analysts, customers, customer testimonials, investors, why they invested in us, who are able to come out there and speak on our behalf is really a very important element to the communications matrix and takes a lot of the hype out of it and lets other very credible members of the community and influencers help share our story for us in a way that feels a lot less hypey, salesy, jargony, etc.
You mentioned a great point about the narrative being very important for these companies. Can you unpack what does it mean in practice for startups that are coming from stealth mode?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think again, we keep talking about the very, very crowded space. If we're not communicating, and people, you can have the best talent and the best product, but if nobody knows about it, it's like that metaphor about the tree falling in the woods. And so your story and your visibility are your leverage. And if you're not shaping that story, somebody else probably is, and they are probably taking away your market share, your talent, and perhaps even your funding. So, around storytelling, we generally kick off engagements with our clients with an immersion meeting. One of the primary outputs of that immersion meeting is that narrative. The narrative generally includes a company description, a category description, the company mission, why we're here and why we matter, the vision, what the industry category might look like, and how we're going to meet the need of the future. And then those 3 to 5 key messages, largely focused around those differentiating points and the why they matter for each of our clients. And so, again, included in there, we're going to not want to have a lot of industry jargon, making sure the language is very user benefit centric and showing measurable outcomes. So instead of saying that our model is fast or faster, show how it saved our client, their customers 30%, for example, in acquisition costs.
These are great points.
Yeah, and then I guess, sorry, one other thing. The narrative is great, and it's a great starting point, but it evolves too. So as we look at a quarterly review of plans and activities, we'll look at the narrative again as well to see how that's evolving. What does the market look like? What does the category look like? And how might our technology have evolved as well, so that we are making sure that we are speaking to where the puck is going as the market evolves.
As I said, it's awesome. Very helpful, specifically, I would say, for many of these entrepreneurs who are just starting and, they have not matured their narrative and go-to-market strategy. This is super crucial. One of the great ways to stand out is through thought leadership, showing thought leadership and showing the credibility in general, the public space, either the social media or through other sort of content. What is your litmus test for real thought leadership versus the disguised sort of sales messaging?
It's a great question. And this is something that we work with our clients on every day. Again, I said it earlier, the natural inclination is to sell. But if your thought leadership proposition ends with the solution being the very technology that your company delivers, it's not thought leadership, it's sales. So What we generally recommend from a thought leadership perspective is, it's important to be surprising, offer a point of view that people haven't heard before, something that highlights a blind spot, something that changes perception, or answering a question that others really aren't answering. It's also important to be really bold. I mean, a lot of companies get nervous about being bold, about talking to issues that are controversial. We have a client in the AI space that will pretty much speak to anything. So the tariffs came out, and we very quickly pitched that this company would talk about the tariffs and their impact on AI and AI compute costs. That got a lot of media interest. They will speak to legislation and regulation, no problem. The DeepSeek phenomenon came out. This company was out on the forefront talking about DeepSeek and its impact on NVIDIA, AI compute costs, etc. And their willingness and ability, with our help in some cases, to craft a story that allows them to speak to these sometimes controversial, but also thought-provoking topics, has generated coverage for them in Fortune, Wall Street Journal, Washington Post, Fast Company, podcasts, newsletters, Substacks, verticals, trades, etc. And it really, for this company that doesn't necessarily generate a lot of news, is the very linchpin for communication and getting a lot of visibility that allows them to reach their developer-focused target audiences.
You mentioned many different platforms that these days are being leveraged by these AI companies. There used to be a date that everybody wanted to be featured by Forbes. I mean, they're still awesome, but now there are many different ways to get visibility, and some of them might even be cheaper and faster to the market, like podcasts, newsletters, other platforms like Ask Gen AI. And they are growing in influence. There are lots of different followers that are kind of more interested into those new types of media. So how should AI companies rethink their media mix beyond these top tier, like you mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, listen, if I had a nickel for every time a client said they wanted to be in Bloomberg or the Wall Street Journal or CNBC, I'd be taking this meeting from my Hamptons house on the water. But since I'm not there, I will tell you, these outlets are still important, but the traditional journalists and those people at those outlets are shrinking. And we can talk about why and how, but predominantly, they still carry a lot of influence, but also of significant influence and outlets that validate are things like podcasts. As of 2025, there were 584 million podcast listeners worldwide, which was a 15% increase over 2024 and a 25% increase over the year prior. Podcasts had a tremendous impact on the US presidential elections and are really growing in influence in the tech AI community as well. We've had a ton of success there. Substacks also continue to grow in weight and influence. A lot of very prominent AI journalists from some of the outlets that we've mentioned today have now left and created their own Substacks, and people are following them. Substack has over 200 million monthly active subscribers. And so that is growing as well as the media who were at these very prominent outlets create their own Substacks that we are targeting daily as well. And so, we know attention spans are shrinking, and it takes more than one message to cause somebody to take action. And so reaching them via all these channels, not to mention social media, webinars, et cetera, via a variety of channels, makes the difference in terms of taking, from the top of the funnel throughout. And so we find that, like I said, podcasts, newsletters, verticals, Substacks are all, and I will say outlets like Gen AI Works, which are, community based and really create community engagement. This opportunity today, that wouldn't be possible in traditional media. And these are the types of opportunities that are really helping drive opportunities throughout the funnel and drive engagement and drive stakeholder value.
100%. Nothing beats a great community. That's 100% is a proven key to get visibility and real followers or sales or whatever achievement.
Yeah, I mean, what are some of the big opportunities that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, what right now it seems that a lot of founders are not focusing on the right messaging. And if they can make sure that they follow a couple of steps, especially on social media, they can get a lot of sort of organic visibility, which is in many senses it can be also free. We already talked about hype. I'm not going to go there again, but two or three more, I guess, factors. One is talking about themselves too much rather than talking about how things are helpful. So for example, it was like, we raised this and we are great and I built that, and instead of like what is about your client or customers that you would like to highlight. You also mentioned that it's about how you're helping, like what is the percentage that it helped your client. This is very important. Also, I would say another important factor is just like talking at people, like starting to push their agenda rather than sort of talking with them, showcasing their pain points and their stories of like what you are seeing and what you're having this problem. I mean, I remember when I started sharing things on LinkedIn, I was a university lecturer, and I started just teaching data science, and I started showcasing what I know, and sometimes it was just something very simple, but it resonated. It's just because people were coming with me in the journey of my study, my teaching experience. And at the same time, I had my sort of colleagues that they were only sharing about their certificates every day. Like, I just got this from Udemy. I just got this from, and there was a huge difference in terms of support and sort of visibility and credibility, based on the kind of content that we were sharing.
Love that. Great.
All right. I mean, I'm going to just jump to the next question because everybody is excited to hear the rest, but I know that the time is also, clock is ticking. So I have one more question, and then I will go back to our audience and see what they got. So
Sure.
Yeah, I would like to hear more about Spark PR. You've helped clients land everywhere, from Fortune to niche newsletters. What's the core framework you use to build a communication strategy that actually derives outcomes?
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about the first three steps in terms of just making sure for storytelling to make sure that you know your objectives, your target audiences, and your customers, and your differentiators and your competitors. So that's one. And then from an execution perspective, it's really about a few things. There are these important news moments. Funding rounds or inflection points, hiring surges show growth. Partnerships are great for credibility. And so we generally recommend packaging those up into really big moments in time, first best onlys, and creating the type of milestone moments that really make a difference. So, in the old days, we used to talk about drum beats and, sequential news announcements. And today, with the very overcrowded AI space, it may even be more important to be packaging up several announcements in order to really make a big difference. And then again, and then it's not just about the news. It's making sure that we're optimizing the conversational white space in between, and using those moments to drive thought leadership, tell our founder's story, add some personality to the brand, right? Rock stars attract rock stars, and investment, and adding a real personal nature to the company and the company story really makes a big difference. So yeah, you could, get a story in an outlet about, your new product, but what really might be more memorable is telling a story about the time the founder was coding until 4 a.m. trying to get ready for the product launch, or the time the power went out right before we were pitching to a VC, and how we calibrated. What was that moment, that inflection point where we were on the verge of failure, but we pulled things out from the brink and were able to pivot and turn it around. Adding a little bit of humanity and humanism to the brand really drives interest, storytelling, and attracts not only media interest, but like I said, talent and VC dollars for that matter as well. The technology is important, but the people behind the technology are really important as well.
Thanks, Ellen. I'm going to ask two quick questions from the audience.
Terrific.
One, from an AI founder listening right now, whose ConvinceCom is important but doesn't know where to start? Sorry, I'm reading it wrong, because so for an AI founder listening right now who's ConvinceCom is important but doesn't know where to start, what are the first two things they should do this week to start owning their narrative? So this is the first comment from our listeners.
Great. Honestly, I think it's what I said earlier. It's making sure you have those three. So you asked for two, but I'm going to say three things mapped out from the start. Understand your business objectives, understand your target customer, very specifically, job titles, industries, categories, etc. And then really understand your competitors and why we're different, better, unique, what value proposition we can deliver that they cannot, and how our technology is really making a difference today. And also, as I said earlier, that we're skating to where the puck is going, that we're future thinking, and we will have the ability to meet future needs because companies buy technology from customers that will deliver today and in the future. Awesome. And then, from there, the narrative stems from there.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Ellen. The last one from our viewers: how might emerging AI technologies such as generative AI and autonomous agents fundamentally alter the landscape of brand building and market share acquisition in the next 5 years? I mean, 5 years is a very long time, but let's say in the future.
Yeah, I'll say this. I think a big opportunity for content and content optimization comes in the form of video, and using tools like Sora, for example, as we're, our attention spans are decreasing. Short form video consumption is on the increase. Really using AI tools to share and create video content is a major opportunity. We're not there yet, but I do envision a world where my pitches to reporters get sent as video attachments, or video embedded in the email or text or whatever form we're using to communicate. I think content optimization, personalization, and delivery for video is a massive and probably untapped market opportunity that I do think we'll see in 5 years. I think that's going to be the primary way we communicate. And sadly, as a reader myself, I have a bunch of books in the background. The written word will probably continue to decline.
Yeah, I mean, this is sad, but then at the same time, it is adding different dimension to the content, which is, from one perspective, it can be a positive thing. I'm a kind of a visual person myself, and I highly enjoy watching some of these AI generated videos. Some of them are getting crazy good and even difficult to distinguish from the reality. So
Indeed.
thanks,
I mean,
Ella. Any final thoughts? Anything you would like to share?
yeah, it's why we're here, right? I mean, if you and I wanted to write something down and send it to everybody on the line today, they probably wouldn't read it. And so, really this opportunity for deeper engagement, for audio and video content, for really piquing people's interest in that way is a massive opportunity for moving forward. I also did want to add two things before we go. Spark and Gen AI Works are hosting a happy hour at Gen AI Week next week on Monday at 5:30, and would like to invite everybody on the line to attend. I'm going to have my colleague drop a link to the RSVP in the chat, if that's okay. If
Yes.
you're in the Bay Area, we'd love to have you. Unfortunately, I can't tell you where it is until you RSVP, and then the location will become available to you. Thank you, Natalie, for doing that. And then, so thank you. Would be great to have you all there. And then I also wanted to invite anyone who's interested. We'll offer 30 minutes of free consult to help you get started. Not a sales pitch, to just point you in the right direction. If you're interested in working with us, that's great too. And if you're interested in that, feel free to email me. My email address is ellen.edelman@sparkpr.com. Yeah, thank you, Natalie. Appreciate that. Me or one of my colleagues is happy to jump on a free 30-minute call to help you, coalesce some of those first steps, for example, and think about how you might move forward in a way that meets, your budget, your needs, your time frame, and how to optimize communications for the short and long term.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Ellen.
Yeah.
Super exciting. Looking forward to meeting you and the rest of the audience in the Gen AI Week event and the side event.
Terrific. Well, thanks so much for your time. This was a tremendous opportunity. Loved speaking with you and having the opportunity to share with everybody what we do every day. Try to make it fun and interesting, and what we're really passionate about. So this has really been my pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.